Australia's stimulus economy. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.heise here and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your stein of coffee and let's have a look at this article from news.com.au written by Tarek Brooker discussing, well, our economy is a stimulus economy, over $500 billion. Yeah, the other day we looked at an article and it got me a little upset. There were lawyers or mortgage brokers or someone, real estate agents, someone saying, there were predictions that the economy would be in trouble or housing would suffer. And it was surprising how well it's done. It's not surprising at all. The government's just flooding the economy with money and stimulus. And it's not like they have all these big pools of money sitting there. No, they have all these people that they can farm for tax dollars in the future. Or, there's population growth projections that they're anticipating to happen. What do you think's going to, what do you think will happen? How do you think that'll manifest? Future generations are going to bear this burden. So when they're saying people are surprised, they shouldn't be. Maybe they're surprised that we had a liberal government just blow Labor's stimulus records out of the water entirely, just go insane. There's very little difference between the two parties anymore, to be honest. Anyway, so the Australian economy is riding on $507 billion government stimulus package. The future of our economy is riding on an expensive strategy that's wiped out the annual budget, but there's no way of knowing if it will actually work. So, here's the pandemic support, the Rudd-Gillard support, the current level of stimulus, total federal government. There you go. On the wall in the office of the fictional FBI agent Fox Mulder, the protagonist of the X-Files TV and movie series, there is a poster with a UFO on it with the caption, "I want to believe." There's some 90s flashback for us all. As Australia heads into 2021, the mood surrounding the Aussie economy is quite similar. A whole lot of hope and belief amid a great deal of uncertainty in a world of unknown. It's hopium, everyone. Everyone loves their hopium. While the narrative coming from much of the financial media and the Morrison government is one of optimism, attempting to accurately determine what condition the economy will be in when the various government support programs end is challenging to say the least. Well, there's the question. It'll become a political football, everyone. So will the government support programs end? I'm putting it out there. Do you think they will end? Or will they continue? Or will they evolve? Hey, crazier things have happened, everyone. Seriously. As it stands between the various government stimulus programs at a federal and state level, the tens of billions of dollars in superannuation withdrawal, approximately $300 billion in support is currently flowing through the economy. The 2021 budget commits further response and recovery support, bringing the overall support to $507 billion, including $257 billion in direct economic support. When spending reaches such dizzying heights, it's at times hard to find a meaningful yardstick to measure such an enormous level of expenditure. To put the current level of government support into perspective, it's around 61% of the entire federal budget for the 2018-2019 financial year. Just think about that. Just the support we're having now, which happens to be the last financial year not impacted by the crisis or by the pandemic. But how does the current stimulus stack up against past crisis response packages in recent Australian history? During the height of the GFC, the then Rudd government deployed a series of cash handouts to taxpayers and welfare recipients in order to kickstart the economy. And over the course of the policy, $21.4 billion was injected in the economy. A lot of that was done also through the building education revolution. And I will just bring up this chart here to show you that it hasn't had any meaningful impact on our mean scores for education. A lot of it was, wasted. A lot of wasted money. And I'm speaking of this from sitting around the Institute of Architects talking to practice managers where they would compare the value for money that the public sector would get compared to the private sector, because they all got this government money. Private sector managed to get a lot more value for their money than the government sector. A lot of the state schools would be told, you're getting this building here, that's it. They'd have no control over it. Sometimes they'd demolish entirely useful buildings to replace it with something similar. It was the broken window fallacy. And they overheated the market. You saw what happened. Look at the bat disaster. People were dying installing insulation bats into roofs because it was just rushed and done so dodgily. This is the problem when you overheat things. When the government steps in to try and help out, it creates problems. Over the entire Rudd-Gillard government global financial crisis response package, a total of $51 billion was spent. This included policies such as infrastructure construction and school hall construction programs and the controversial Pink Bats installation scheme, and money handed out to everyone. Rachel bought a sewing machine with it. And honestly, that's probably a smart investment she made, because she made her own wedding dress, saved her money. Except unlike the current stimulus program that are expected to inject $300 billion over the 12 months to end of March, the Rudd-Gillard government's spend was spread over 4 years. See, this is the thing now. The LNP, or Liberal Party, they're not going to be able to be critical of any Labour spending. Now, they can't say a thing. To put the current level of government support for the economy into perspective, it's more than 14 times larger than the Rudd government's cash handout scheme, and almost 6 times larger than the entire 4-year stimulus package from the Rudd and Gillard governments. But despite the unprecedented scale of the Morrison government stimulus and the other various support programs, there's still around $250 billion still to come from the federal government alone. Even the New South Wales state government's commitment of a total of $29 billion in pandemic support packages makes the Rudd government's GFC-era cash handouts seem somewhat trivial. Or thrifty. As it stands, with total government support sitting around $300 billion, or approximately 15% of GDP. So that's why, everyone, this is why we're not feeling the recession. This is why markets aren't correcting. Because money is just being pumped into the economy by the government. And you have to wonder, well, if that's so good, why don't we do it all the time? Well, there's a price to pay. Nothing is free, everyone. If you have this magic ability to generate money out of nowhere to be the hero, you always pay the price eventually. In fact, the current level of government support is so great that it is larger than the budget deficits of 41 during the darkest hour of World War II. But is the largest peacetime cash splash in the history of Australia actually mending the economy, or merely providing a temporary sugar hit? And that is the most important question to consider there. I think a lot of people aren't really thinking about it. A lot of the normal people, they're not really dwelling on it. They're just going about their lives and they're seeing they're busy. You wanna hope that it'll all work out well, but you should prepare for the worst. Maybe that's just the stoicism coming out. The answer to this question is a matter of hotly contested debate around the globe, with most nations currently engaging in similar policies of using unprecedented levels of stimulus to support their economies. The answer will be key to the world's economic fortunes growing forward. Generally, the downside argument can be summed up as this: the cash injection into the economy will temporarily boost spending and provide some short-term support for headline GDP growth, but ultimately not result in the kind of economic activity that will drive long-term prosperity and stable economic growth. This potential downside is exacerbated by concerns that financial markets are arguably highly overvalued due to central bank digital money printing, and risks are not being properly priced. In the words of legendary investor and billionaire Jeremy Grantham, this bubble will burst in due time, no matter how hard the Fed tries to support it, with consequent damaging effects on the economy and on portfolios. Make no mistake, for the majority of investors today, this could very well be the most important event of your investing lives. As many found out around the world the hard way during the GFC, issues in financial markets, particularly ones of a large magnitude, have a way of causing equal or even greater damage in the real economy and the labour market. Despite the positive narratives and even outright hype surrounding the future of the Aussie economy, risks continue to build globally, both within financial markets and the real economy, as the pandemic continues to ravage nations around the globe. What conditions we find the Australian economy in once the curtain of $507 billion in total federal government stimulus is lifted is a mystery, and may remain so for quite some time. Going forward, the only certainty is uncertainty, Experts are divided on whether we face a long but relatively smooth road to recovery, or whether our path might be quite a bit more bumpy. Ultimately, like FBI agent Fox Mulder, we may want to believe in the Australian economy, but the reality in the coming years may be quite different. So, what do you think, everyone? Do you believe that it'll all be good? Or what's going to happen when the tap is turned off? Or what other scheme can they implement? Or, well, I mean, we already know now the RBA doesn't care about house prices rising. We saw that in a previous video. They're not worried about it. So what price will future generations pay for this support and for kicking the can down the road even further? As always, guys, thanks for watching. Like, share, subscribe to the channel. If you're a fan and enjoy the content I cobble together here, there are a few ways you can support us. You can join us on YouTube or Patreon. You can support us using our affiliate links from Amazon, eBay, Independent Reserve, or AussieBroadband. You can buy merch from HeiseSays, use Gold Pass from the Perth Mint, or support us via PayPal. Take care, everyone. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.